It is indeed a crushing crisis going on all around the world. Now, the first World Day of Migrants and Refugees was held exactly 100 years ago this year. Pope Francis has sent a message for 2015 on the World Day of Migrants and Refugees. Of course, that's today, entitled Church Without Frontiers, Mother to All. The day is celebrated at a time Europe is going through the worst crisis in its history. The problem of migrants and refugees is not only confined to Europe, though. Here in South Africa, we've also had our fair share of the problems, like recent xenophobic attacks, refugee camps, killings, displaced foreign nationals, and painful reintegration processes. Now, the communications officer of the Jesuit Refugee Services is Gashwal Brooks. He joins us live in the studio this morning. Gashwal, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning to you, Evan.
What is your message as the Jesuit Refugee Service? What's your message on today, the World Migrants and Refugees Day?
I think Pope Francis's message, especially the theme around the message, saying that it's a church without frontier, mother to all, clearly highlights exactly what the Jesuit Refugee Service is trying to achieve by assisting people. These are not people that we class according to their religion, their race, or whatever their circumstances might be, but they need assistance. These are people in dire need. And I think that the definition of refugee clearly highlights why they need our assistance.
Now, in Europe, we see some countries closing their borders, putting up barbed wire fence. We see the reportage in the media calling these refugees migrants, as if these are people that are leaving their country because they like to leave their country. How do you view all of this in the context of what's going on?
It is obviously very disturbing. We do see pockets of excellence. I mean, Germany stepping forward and saying that they would take on 800,000 of these people. That is, commendable on their side. But I think it is a global phenomenon. I think that there are many countries that are looking at the situation through similar eyes. I mean, you think of Australia. Australia is not, very open with the idea of refugees at the moment. We remember the issue of the boat people not too long ago, where there was this huge debate on whether who should take responsibility for saving the lives of about 8,000 people stranded in the middle of the Indian Ocean. South Africa, to a large extent, especially on a societal level, was also faced with a similar situation.
That's where I want to take this conversation with you, is that, in terms of South Africa, we've seen the kind of refugee and migrant crisis that we've had. What is life like for a refugee on the one part and a person who's classed as a migrant today here in South Africa?
I think even for the ordinary person on the street, I don't think that there is a distinction. I think people see all foreign nationals as migrants. I don't think that we necessarily comprehend that there are refugees, and these are people that are literally running for their lives, and that's why they seek asylum and refuge status here in South Africa. And I think that is, and it's understandable, especially if you think about the lack of service delivery in some instances, if you think about unemployment, if you think about poverty levels. It is quite clear why there is some level of resistance. But the fact of the matter is that if you look at the stories, and that's what JRS, or the Jesuit Refugee Service, prides itself in, is that we can tell the stories of people. During the course of this week, I spoke to a gentleman from Ethiopia that's a refugee here in South Africa. And what was his experience? He was shot, during a robbery. And this man has not been treated all that well by South Africans.
When we talk about that, the context, we are told that the worst is now behind us, and we have to put it behind us, and we have to build bridges. Do you share that view?
Yes, of course. And at Jesuit Refugee Service, we definitely do try to build those bridges. Many of the programs that we do run focus specifically on building social cohesion between refugees, asylum seekers, migrants, and ordinary South Africans. That is why a lot of our programs also extend to South Africans in giving them assistance exactly in areas where there's a need in service delivery.
What are some of those unique challenges that these people face, especially here in South Africa? What are the unique challenges to our country?
South Africa, look, globally, half of all refugees across the world are what we call urban refugees. These are people that are not confined to camps. They're not getting food aid or whatever in that particular form. So as an urban refugee, in as much as you have rights that most of the rights that an ordinary South African has, you also have the same responsibilities.
Yeah.
So you have to provide for your family, you have to educate your children and so forth. So these are the things that we assist people with. I mean, key amongst them is the livelihoods program that we run here in South Africa. We include South Africans in that process. Why? Because we're trying to show people that we're also assisting you with your poverty alleviation. But apart from that, building the camaraderie between ordinary South Africans and many of the refugees and asylum seekers we assist.
Gashwal, I thank you for joining us today. Gashwal Brooks is the Communications Officer of the Jesuit Refugee Service here in South Africa. Of course, they mark World Day of Migrants and Refugees today.